Here we go, another edition of Hey Bobby with Senior VP of the Cleveland Guardians, my good friend Bob DiBiasio. Always appreciate the time he gives us during the baseball season. And I got to tell you, we have a whale of a time talking baseball, both with the current and talking history and nostalgia and the game itself. It's been a lot of fun. Bobby, I know you were out in Arizona for spring training baseball, and they tried the computer strike zone while you were out there. One, your opinion. Number two, what type of feedback did you get from some of the people with the Guardians? What did you hear about that trial run?
Ray, it was very interesting. You heard that there were only a select number of ballparks in spring training that utilized the automatic strike zone equipment. We happened to be in Goodyear, happened to be one of those cities, one of those ballparks. So that was number one. So it wasn't universally tried. Secondly, you heard different things from different managers. As I understood it, Tito told his club, I don't want you challenging a single call because it's not going to help you during the 2025 baseball season. It's not going to be implemented. So there's no reason to play with it. Ours was go for it. If you want to do it in the first inning, test it out. Let's see how it works. And so the philosophy of utilizing it this spring was all on 180-degree different on the spectrum. Personally, sitting in the stands, I loved it. It took 5 seconds. A player, you only have the pitcher, the catcher, and the hitter. You can't look in the dugout to see if you should look at video and see if you should challenge. You don't have time to do that. And so only the pitcher, the hitter, and the catcher are allowed to, they tap their head is the sign for, especially the hitter would tap his helmet, and that would give the sign to the umpire to go to the video. And again, within 5 seconds, boom, they show you the strike zone and they show you exactly where the ball was. And it's just like tennis. If there is just the thinnest margin of the ball hitting the line of the rectangular strike zone, it's a strike. And so I just thought it was pretty interesting.
Well, technology is here, right? I mean, we're using it in replays and home run calls. Let me ask you this, and we'll get off this topic. Do you think it's coming?
Yes. Oh, if they're doing it in spring training and they've done it in the minor leagues, the operational philosophy of Major League Baseball, I think, has been absolutely terrific in terms of efficiency and effectiveness by throwing all the pitch clock, the larger bases, the no shift, two infielders on each side of second base with their cleats in the dirt. All of those things have been in place in the minor leagues for a number of years. So a lot of the kids who are in the big leagues now had played under those rule changes in the minors. Same thing with this, that it was implemented a number of years ago in the minor leagues. It's a AAA this year. So once it gets that high up and we tested it on major league players in spring training, it's coming, whether it's 2026 or 2027, whatever the year might be. But just the philosophy of baseball is making sure that by the time it gets to the big leagues, it's done the right way.
Well, you mentioned years. This is what, 31 years of home openers at Jacobs Field, now Progressive Field for our Cleveland Guardians. And, I just wanted to reflect with you just a little bit on when you first walked into the finished product, because I know you were there during the building of the whole thing and got to walk in, and that was something else. But I know you had to walk in. I had the privilege of coming over from Pennsylvania and going wanted to one of those very first exhibition games. I believe it was the Pirates and
Yes.
the Indians. I was there out in deep right field, and I was mesmerized. The smell of the ballpark captivated me right away. But when you first saw the finished product, the first day you walked into our ballpark, can you go back to that for me?
Well, it starts with when the construction phase identified where home plate had to be. Nothing happens in the building of a baseball park until home plate is put in the ground. You have to identify where home plate is, and then you go directly north to northeast to pitcher's mound, second base, dead center field. That's how a baseball diamond is laid out. So once you have home plate identified, then you can build the stands and the dugouts and everything else around it. But that's the focal point. So the first thing we ever did when we got to that point and the grounds were raised and we had that home plate identified and there's a flat surface, we held a big party selling sweets and had our food provider, Levy Restaurants, there. And that's where Mel Harder and Charlie Nagy threw ceremonial first pitches to Sandy Alomar. And, you know, Mel Harder was in his 1931 uniform because he threw the very first game at Cleveland Stadium back in the early 30s. So I remember that specifically. And then after batting practice at Cleveland Stadium, we would have guys jump on a bus and we'd bus over to um, Jacobs Field during construction and get put hard hats on them as they would walk through the new clubhouse just to get them all fired up about what their
Yeah.
new digs were going to be all about. And then as the thing just kept evolving, we'd get over there and do different media tours and things of that nature. And then when it came to opening day, a game against the Pirates, such a weird thing because that was a nice day. We played the Pirates and it was a beautiful, fun, sunny day as it was our dress rehearsal. And then the next day we had an open house for anybody who wanted to come and walk around the place. Feel free to walk in free of charge. And it snowed, and we had to cancel it. And then the next day, chilly but sunny, is obviously when we had opening day and President Clinton throwing out the ceremonial first pitch and all the pageantry of opening a new era of baseball and walking around and watching people just look around in amazement that this is ours. This is actually our ballpark.
It was so pretty. I remember when I walked through and went out because at that time you went way up in the right field area. That's where my seats were, and looking down, it was mesmerizing. One thing too that I remember in the old center field is you had that old bar out there in center field that was a gathering place that has kind of been transferred now to the right field area over there. But since then, we now have Heritage Park in there. And I wanted to bring that up today because I know you have a real special feeling about Heritage Park with all the names and the personalities in there. And that's one thing that people are going to see right away as they come into the ballpark this week for the new season. It's going to be right in front of them. And I thought maybe you could talk a little bit about the idea of Heritage Park.
We opened up our ballpark thinking we needed to connect things that happened at Cleveland Stadium, such as behind the fence parties. So in that deep center field area, we put picnic tables and had some pregame group outings out there where people could mingle, get a company together, and during batting practice, have some food and beverage. And just like Cleveland Stadium, home run balls come shooting in and hitting people in their hot dogs and on their beers. And after a while, that just philosophy just didn't work for a lot of people getting to the ballpark that early. Even though we started our sellout streak in June of 95 and people would come to the ballpark early, um, that concept was sort of losing its luster. And so we thought, okay, what are we going to do with this real estate out here? And that's when I came up with the idea that if we're not going to have an actual museum which we're hoping to do after all these renovations are done, maybe down the road. We can create a space in the ballpark for our rich tradition and have a Cleveland baseball museum. And so we thought, well, let's honor the rich history of this franchise. And it's two-tiered. You know, the top tier has the plaques of those who are in the Guardians Hall of Fame and also Cooperstown Hall of Fame. And then the bottom row is just the Guardians Hall of Famers, memorable moments, some other historical artifacts, Ray Chapman's plaque, and a few other really cool items. So if you're walking around the ballpark and you get like the senior stroll, we call it, in the third inning, that you need to get up and get those legs moving, or you need a bathroom break, walk around and head out to Heritage Park and educate yourself and relive some incredible history of this franchise.
I brought some of my friends. It was the first time they were at the ballpark last year. They live in Southern Ohio. So we went up to the game. They were totally mesmerized by Heritage Park. As a matter of fact, they said, hey, we got to get to the game. First pitch is coming up. Let's get going down to the game. But Bobby is right. You get a chance, get there a little bit early, whether it's this week or during the summer, whenever it is, and stop in the Heritage Park. You'll really enjoy the rich history of this baseball team. Bobby, as always, my friend, thanks for taking time. It's opening week for our Cleveland Guardians. We'll do this throughout the baseball season. Always look forward to our conversations.
First of many, Ray. Cannot wait. Go Guardians.